Okay, in this set of videos we're going to look at calculating or finding the gradient and y-intercept given a straight line. So let's imagine we're given the equation y equals 5x take away 18. To find the gradient and y-intercept here, all we have to do is compare it to the equation y equals mx plus c. And we can compare the gradient m and 5, so we know that the gradient is 5 and c is equal to minus 18. That's all we're doing for this first example. Okay, here this is like a typical exam style question. This comes up quite a lot. It will come up in prelims, it will come up in past papers, it could come up in this year's exam. Generally worth about 3 marks. We can be asked to find the gradient and y-intercept for the following equation. When we want to state these things, we need our equation to be in the form y equals mx plus c. And if you look at this equation at the top, it's not in that form. I've got a 4x, I've got a 5. It's not in the form y equals something x plus something. So I'm going to have to rearrange this in such a way that it eventually gets into this form where I have values for m and c. So I'm just going to move this to the side. So 4x plus 5y equals 11. What I want is on the left hand side, I want exclusively y. So I've got a 5y here. So I'm going to try and keep this here at this side. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and solve this like an equation. So first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this 4x. So to get rid of this and this, to get rid of this from the left hand side, I'm going to need to subtract it from both sides. So I'm going to have 5y equals, on the right hand side of the equation, I'm going to have minus 4x plus 11. I could have written 11 take away 4x, that would probably be the more conventional way to write it, but I want to write it in the form something x plus something. So I wanted to write this first because this has like the x part attached to it. Okay, I now want it to be y equals mx plus c. I've got 5y here. So in order to get rid of this 5y, this y is being multiplied by 5, so the opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing by 5. So I'm going to divide the left hand side by 5 and the right hand side by 5. So that will give me y equals minus 4 fifths x plus 11 fifths. And now what I can do is I can compare this to my equation y equals mx plus c, and I can see that the gradient is minus 4 fifths, and c, the y-intercept, where our line crosses the y-axis, is at 11 fifths. So I wanted to rewrite this in the form y equals mx plus c, because when it's in that form I can state the gradient and the y-intercept. So first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to get rid of this 4x, because I would have had a y on the left still, so I subtracted it from both sides. I rewrote it as minus 4x plus 11 rather than 11 minus 4x, because I wanted it to be in the form something x plus something. I then divided through it by 5 to get y on its own, and then I compared with y equals mx plus c. Okay, finally let's just look at this problem. Let's imagine we are asked to state what the equation of the line is, given that the gradient is 7 and it passes through the point 2, 3. So if the gradient is 7 and it passes through the point 2, 3. So I know that y equals mx plus c. This is something that you will need to know. You will not be given this in an exam. I am told that the gradient is 7. So y equals 7x plus c. Excuse me. But I am not told from the question where the y-intercept is. I'm told a point that it passes through, but that doesn't lie on the y-axis. That's just a general point that the line goes through. So we're going to need to substitute, or we're going to need to find a way to substitute these values in. If we look at this coordinate 2, 3 at the top, remember every coordinate is in the form an x coordinate and then a y coordinate. So what we can do is we can substitute these x and y values into this equation. So y is here, so y is 3, so 3 equals 7x, 7 times x, so x is 2, so it's 7 times 2 plus c. So I'm doing this to find out what c is. So 3 equals 14 plus c. That's just the same as writing it round the other way. 14 plus c equals 3. And then to find out what c is, I can just subtract 14 from both sides to get c equals minus 11. Now I have c, I have m, so I can write it in the form y equals 7x take away 11.